What's the biggest mistake you've watched someone make in their personal life? Must be my disabled brother who fell for an internet scam. He met a woman online. She lived in a different continent, but he was certain she was the love of his life. Spent over a year chatting and emailing her, and helping her with money from time to time. Very fishy stuff. But he refused to listen to my skepticism. It ended when he had saved up enough money to go visit her. He went, came back 2 days later and refused to ever admit what had happened. Went to his grave without ever talking about it. Second place goes to my father, who cheered him on. He wasn't sure whether it was a scam or not, but he thought it was nice that my brother had hopes and dreams. My sister owned a home with her husband and first child. Her father-in-law convinced them that if they sold their house and became live-in caretakers for some old relative of his, that he would leave his supposedly nice house in Austin to them. They'd get to live rent-free at this house. It would be theirs outright when he dies. And they'd be set. So they sell their house, move to Austin where they don't have jobs, and move in with this guy. And it's absolute chaos. Guy is constantly watching porn on the living room TV with their toddler around. Doing inappropriate old guy stuff. Telling them what they can and cannot do in the house and when they can come and go. It's a freaking nightmare. They end up leaving the house and getting their own place. They also eventually moved to another state for a few years and came back. They've never been able to buy another house since housing prices have gone way up, and they didn't have enough equity on their other house that they sold. So they've been bouncing from shitty apartment to shitty apartment ever since. This girl who rented out my parents' basement was not great at making smart life choices. She married someone who is serving life in prison for murder. She met him through her cousin, who was also in prison. She eventually got a huge chest tattoo of his last name, and more tattoos of his name all over her body. He ended up being transferred to the east coast of Canada. She lived in the west coast. And she up and abandoned her 2 kids to be close to her husband. One of her kids is severely handicapped. But she never gave a shit about being a parent to her. Anyways, about 3 months after moving, she posts all over her socials that they broke up. And she quickly tried getting the chest tattoo covered up. 2 weeks later she announced they worked it out and they were together again. They kept doing this pattern of fight, break up, make up and repeat. Again. She had 2 daughters she up and abandoned for a man who will most likely never get out of prison. My high school philosophy teacher cheated on his wife with my classmate. His daughter was in the year below us. She transferred schools out of embarrassment when her dad finally left the family to pursue a relationship with the 18-year-old. Yuck. A guy in his mid-50s always worked under the table. Never filed a tax return. Didn't understand that he wouldn't qualify for Social Security. When I showed him the requirements on the ssa.gov https://sar.gov website, I thought he was going to cry. My uncle got himself a mistress. Lent her $10,000 he never got back and lost his job defending her at work. Wife served him divorce papers short afterwards. He gave up his house to his wife. So he ended up jobless and homeless, sleeping on our couch at the ripe age of 60. My friend chose to have a child with a man who had cheated on her multiple times. While still in high school, a buddy that lived with me for a while got a car he couldn't afford because he was obsessed with image. Stopped making payments. Tried to part out the car and report as stolen since he had the bright idea that would bring more money than just giving it back to the bank. Then got into check fraud, which landed him in jail. Been in and out of the system ever since. From stories I hear, have another kid. After number 13. Dump all of their savings, $30,000 or so, into random crypto at the height of the market. They were trying to get more money to put towards a house, but lost a majority of it when things crashed. When their significant other found out, they left. Have a child with someone who fights them on their parenting style. Also cheated on my friend who was 8 months pregnant. They just got married too. Single mother of 3 living in poverty. Gave her parents her $6,000 tax refund to hold onto because she didn't want her abusive ex to convince her to split it with him. Parents spent it all in weeks. Let go of a girl close to their wedding because of his idea of what a wife should be like. Lives in deep regret now as she married his friend, and they're really happy whilst he has never found anyone else. My brother ran for public office without having an agenda. He had no leadership qualifications, background in position, or support from anyone in the community. His took out the $10K personal loan to finance his political run and held one fundraiser where most of the attendees were family and couldn't vote for him. He lost badly, coming in last behind 4 other candidates. It took him years to pay back the loan and refill his savings, which he completely drained to pay for signage and flyers. Saddest of all, the printer misspelled his name on both items. So any remnant is a harsh reminder of how badly things went.